Hello, hello, hello. Welcome to your Lifetimes When Jesus and Buddha Knew Each Other book club. I'll be your host tonight. My name is Christian Stanbury from Calgary, Alberta, Canada. I'm really excited about today's call because it's our first time reviewing a chapter from Gary's latest book, The Lifetimes When Jesus and Buddha Knew Each Other, A History of Mighty Companions. Gotta say, my favorite author by far. This is how I first got introduced to the course, and can't get enough of Gary. I already can't wait for his 5th book. But anyways, that's a while in the future. So yeah, just really excited. Obviously, you can tell why. Let's start off the call, how we start every call. Your name, your location, and why you're excited about today's call.
I'm Sheila Sear. I'm from Calgary, Alberta, Canada, just like Christian, just like Janine. And I'm excited about the call because I like talking about Gary's stuff, and I find he is easier to understand than Ken. I love Ken, but I find Gary easier to understand, so it's going to be a good call.
Awesome. Who wants to go next?
I will. No, go ahead.
Hey,
Sorry.
Kelly.
I'm Kelly, and I am from Aiken, South Carolina. And I'm excited about this call because I wanted to join you guys. The last book, the audio that you did, I actually found out about it, though, like a few weeks in. So I waited for you guys to get through with that one, always aware that I wanted to join you when you got to the next book. And I've only been reading Gary. I found his book, I'm thinking like the very beginning of the year, like around Christmas time was when I sort of stumbled upon Disappearance, and it has literally like changed my life. So I've read Disappearance twice. I've read Your Immortal Reality. I've listened to Fearless Love on audio, and I'm now listening to the Ken Wapnick that you guys just finished doing the audio book club for. So I think I'm on chapter 5 or so of that. So I'm really, really new. But I'm absolutely like, I just feel like when you find this and it makes sense to you, it just clicks and you're like, okay, this is my thing. And I think I found it.
Yeah, that's absolutely incredible. And my question is, have you started the course? Have you got your
Oh yeah, I got the course. I'm reading it very slowly. But hey, Jared.
Hey, Kelly.
I'm reading it very slowly, and I am doing the workbook. So I'm sort of doing everything, which may be a little bit much, but I'm reading it really slowly. I'm only, I think, on chapter 4. I just read a couple of pages every night. And then mostly, I mean, Gary's books are such a doorway that I find that they're so helpful. But I really like the course. Like yesterday I read a passage that I was just like, oh my God, I love this. You know, like when something just really hits you and you're like, oh my God, I totally needed to hear that. And I've also been doing this practice, which I heard about through David Hoffmeister.
Yeah.
Where if you have a question, you kind of take the course and you pray to Holy Spirit to give you whatever it is that you need to answer your question, and sort of flip the book open and see what the answer is that you get. And that's actually been really, really enlightening for me because it takes you to different places in the course. And but I'm also reading it sequentially as well. But has anybody else done that?
I know I have, and yeah, there's no right or wrong way, right?
Right. And some days I'm just like, you know what, I just feel like I need a little extra message or something. And so I just like ask and I open the book, and it's always bang on. It's always helpful, which is so reassuring, you know?
Wow. All right. Who wants to go
Next. Viola.
Viola and Randy, Salt Lake City. We are excited. I'm excited because we are going to talk about this book, the new book, getting started with it. So just happy to be here.
Yeah, same here. I got through the introduction in the chapter 1, and typical Gary. I love it.
Right on. Yeah, it's almost like going into like even higher than the CIA. Like we're like going into like, yeah, like such hyper intelligence, you know, it's so cool.
Jared?
Okay, well, I can go now. I'm in Calgary with Kristen and Sheila, and of course we know each other from other course groups. And I know Kristen added me to the book club a while ago. It took me a while to figure out that you guys were meeting every Friday and doing Zoom meetings and everything, so I'm happy to be here. Very happy to do this book. I didn't follow along with the last one at all. I first read Gary back when I was divorcing, which was like 2001, around there.
Wow.
And read Immortal Reality, but then hadn't really read him since. I've seen him twice in Calgary, maybe once, I can't remember, but so I'm very happy to be reacquainted with him in this book, and happy to have another course group to follow along with and meet you all. And I don't know, I guess that's it.
Right on. All right, who wants to go next?
Jared?
This is Jared. I'm coming at you from the hockey game. I'm here with Crystal. I can't stay on long. We're in these cool luxury suites, and the hockey game is like right there. So yes. But I'm still excited to share what I got from chapter 1 before I have to end the call or end my time on the call. But Christian, I gotta say, you look very dapper, sir.
Yeah.
Fabulous. You look fabulous.
I get it from you. I'm just trying to look as close as possible to you as possible.
Oh, so nice of you.
The same hair, right?
Oh my God, fabulous, sir. All right, I'm excited. Thanks, guys.
All right. Nathan Lively.
Hi, this is Nathan Lively. I'm in Minneapolis, Minnesota, and I'm excited to be here to forgive you.
Woohoo! I'll make sure I give you plenty of reasons to forgive. All right, so
Thank you.
I think that's everyone, right? Sheila, you went? Okay, cool. So highlights about chapter 1. Let me open my notes here. The first one that always comes to mind when I think about the lifetimes when Jesus and Buddha knew each other in the first chapter is his UFO experience, like where Cindy, Gary's lovely wife, they see two like half circles like signaling them in the clouds in the sky, and he intuitively thought that they were UFOs, and it turns out that they were actually like Pleiadians, like a small Pleiadian spaceship, which if you're not familiar, the Pleiadians is an extraterrestrial race, and they've got to be like, if not the most advanced spiritually extraterrestrial race, then they're like second place, because they're so enlightened that their planet is actually becoming extinct because they're no longer reincarnating. So that's like just like so interesting, you know, like it just blows my mind. And yeah, I guess Gary's kind of like buddies with them, because in I believe it was the third book, Gary's third book, he gets to go on to a Pleiadian starship and
Jealous.
yeah, that's just wild, you know. Supposedly they're good looking too, if we like saw them. Who doesn't like tall blonde people, right? Anyways. Other highlights, let's see here. So one that comes off the top of my mind, they're discussing in the first book, The Disappearance of the Universe. This part, it's in the second chapter. It seems to just go by everybody's eyes. We all seem to forget about this important part in The Disappearance of the Universe. And it's basically discusses 4 attitudes of learning that we go through in our spiritual development. And we bounce back and forth between these attitudes of learning. And there's dualism, which is the condition of 99.9% of everyone. There's semi-dualism, non-dualism, and pure non-dualism, which is basically what this whole book is about, or it's a really big part of it, is because we're discussing lifetimes when Jesus and Buddha knew each other. So it's important to kind of like understand the difference, and how pure non-dualism is where we like really understand that only God and heaven and reality is real, and that's it, and there is nothing else. So yeah, I think I'll leave it at that. Who wants to go next? Highlights.
I want to go next.
All right.
I want to go next. So, Christian, first of all, dude, I love what you said about the Pleiadians. I didn't know all that information. Thank you for sharing that. I didn't know that they're so enlightened that they're not reincarnating anymore, and they're losing their planet because not many people are reincarnating. Like, what a good problem to have, man.
Yeah.
By the way, is there major background noise on my end? Can you guys hear like all this boom and bass on my end?
Yeah, but it's still not bad, dude. Like,
It's not bad. Okay, cool. And also, I love what you just said about the 4 attitudes of learning on the dualism, non-dualism, pure non-dualism. Like, you just totally jogged my memory on all that stuff, bro. So thank you. So my highlights were when they said that Jesus and Buddha started at the bottom. And, they started out like all of us at the bottom. And they just had an advantage that they didn't take it seriously. That was great. I also really appreciated that Gary covered the kind of like the Course in Miracles, almost like the metaphysics of A Course in Miracles on the first 20 pages. Like, I was reading that and I was like, holy crap, like, he just nailed everything. And he kind of like summarized the book in those 20 pages. And to me, that would be very hard to summarize A Course in Miracles in 20 pages, but he really did that well. I love the part also where he talks about the cat and the dog, and how the cat says, the dog says, everyone takes care of me, they must be gods. And the cat says, everyone takes care of me, I must be a god.
yeah. The other
that
thing
was funny.
So yeah, dogs think that we're gods, and cats think that they're gods. I also like to say that, like, oh yeah, never mind, I screwed that up. Like, I was thinking of like just dogs. Like, little dogs think they're big, and big dogs think they're little. But I thought there was a cat in there somewhere. So yeah, don't even listen to me anyway.
Took me off my flow, bro. Just kidding. I'm playing. What?
I'm sorry.
No, it's all good. But no, so besides that, I think I'm just like so excited to read chapter 2. It's like he's finally going to start talking about the first lifetime where they were together. That chapter I've already looked, is 24 pages. So I just got to read 4 pages a day. I'm going to make it through. And I can't wait to hear what everyone else has to say. I might not be able to be on really most of the webinar, but I'm going to watch the recording. And thank y'all for still letting me on despite the crazy background noise. So that's all I got.
Dude, no, thanks for being here for sure, dude.
Awesome, bro. Thank you, Christian.
You too. All right. Who wants to go next?
I'll say stuff.
All right.
Okay. One of the very first things that I wrote down that I liked a lot was the self-help movement is about getting what you want, making things happen in the world, attracting things to you that are outside of you, and achieving your goals. That approach is based on a false premise. The premise that if you get what you want, it will make you happy. The truth is that if you get what you want, it'll make you feel good only for a short time, and then you want something else. It's like a carrot and a stick designed by the ego. And I was like, shit, it is a carrot and a stick.
Yeah, you're 100% right.
I kind of felt when I read that, like my entire life just got like blown up. I was like, oh, already.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, I went to school for, like coaching, and I'm a life coach, and I'm like all into, getting what you want. And I was sort of like, oh, okay. that's not really where I'm actually going to find happiness. So it made a lot of sense though, because I was like, well, that explains to me why I've been doing this for freaking what feels like my entire life, and I don't feel like I'm getting anywhere.
Yeah, I actually felt really similarly because I do coaching as well and training, and so I don't have any insights except that I was thinking about like, oh, I'm even like kind of progressing this by helping other people get what they want in this life, and I secretly know that that's not going to make them happy forever, but at least I know what it's for, I guess.
Yeah, I think that's the part I'm still sort of grappling with, because I'm so new to learning this that every once in a while I'm like, oh, okay, I'm like, this isn't real. We're all here just playing, doing this dream thing and trying to remember that like it's really not what it appears to be, which I think Jared seems to be really good at making that distinction between understanding that it's not really real, and I'm not responsible for like making my life work or making anyone else's life fixed.
Sure.
Which happens.
Sure. But yeah, and I've noticed it influence some of the things that I say to people though, when they say like, these are the things that I want to get out of my life. This is what I deserve, or I want to get paid what I'm worth. And then I can say things like, your worth is not connected to how much you make, and like this could make you happy, but you could be happy for other reasons too. So it's interesting that it informs what I do, but it's also like, yeah, it feels really strange to be doing things,
stuff that other people don't know.
Yeah.
Like, oh, the rest of the world thinks that we're all supposed to be on this train where we're developing ourselves and making trying to create our realities or whatever. And I know that that's actually total bullshit.
Or maybe they do know, sometimes I wonder if I'm talking to people, they're talking about getting things in life and I'm helping them, and I'm talking about getting things in life. And sometimes I wonder, like, maybe they know that it's at a, a totally form level, and that it has nothing to do with true happiness and heaven and all that stuff. So maybe we're all just playing the same game. So I don't know.
Right, because the script is written, right? So we really don't, we're not ever doing anything wrong. We're just playing our part. If I understand that correctly, which I'm still sort of trying to grapple with that piece about the script is written.
Yeah.
Man, I'll tell you what's hard to grapple with in that first chapter. Maybe you'll have something to say about this, Christian. Like, man, when he starts talking about how you are presented with the same lessons in multiple, he says every lifetime or multiple lifetimes, and then you are sort of like learning those lifetimes because time is holographic. So I guess you're learning those all at the same time across multiple lifetimes. Like, that was intense. I was like, wow, it's amazing.
Mm-hmm. I think you just stole Janine's highlight. I'm not sure, but is that right, Janine?
Yeah, it's funny because the two things that you guys have just been talking about were like, they're intersecting for me. So one of the points, which is the lifetimes one, is the one that I was going to talk about. I'm really well acquainted with that whole concept with the Course, how through holographic time, right, all of the lifetimes are happening simultaneously in the dream, because there is no time, there's only the one moment, and so all your forgiveness goes throughout. But in the ego's interpretation of everything, it thinks it's seeing different narratives constantly, but because it's the same underlying story, the original sin, guilt, in each lifetime, even though the ego comes up with a different scenario, right, it's always that same original story. Now each soul or each ego is replaying the same lessons based on what they've learned from the last lifetime. In other words, it's like what is in each ego's imagination is what it keeps regurgitating or keeps keeps rewriting, keeps coming at a different way. But underneath it all, it's just the original story of thinking we separated, feeling terrified we're going to get caught, and feeling guilty about that.
Right, like another version of separation.
Yeah, but because each soul has its own repertoire, its own vocabulary, its own like collection of images, that's why each soul, it looks like they're repeating the same lessons in their own story. For instance, you know, for some people it might always be about money. For other people it might always be about relationships or power dynamics, right? Because we get, like I say, a repertoire, a library of images and experiences. This is the ego, right? And the ego works with that library of images because it's imagined.
Yeah, and sometimes I like to say that it's like similar forgiveness opportunities or lessons or scenarios, but like you said, money, relationships, but you know, the mother-in-law, or you know, whatever you want to say, call it, but it's like, but you know, it's the same through time. So you have like the same problems happening in caveman days, and it looks different from it does, you know, in the 1800s or in the 2000s. But then also you have the same relationships and scenarios happening in different languages and cultures and countries, and as we're learning on other planets, you know, it's like it's all the same. And it's kind of funny.
So the other point that you guys were talking about helping people and in the dream, the reason I'm so well acquainted with the past life stuff is I've been practicing tarot and astrology for years. And when I first learned to do it, it was in the midst of learning the course. And I wanted to learn the divine languages so I could communicate with Holy Spirit in what I saw was an objective way, right? So I thought, I'm not at the point yet where I can trust my own connection to Holy Spirit, so I'll learn these languages. So I learned tarot and astrology, symbolism. So like Gary talked about, or, you know, the collective unconscious, learn the languages of the collective unconscious. So the kind of astrology I practiced was evolutionary, where you're always looking at people's last lifetime in relation to this lifetime. Anyway, all that aside, what you guys were saying about helping people in the dream, for me now, I'm moving away from all of that just for the course, because at one time, like your coaching, it really does help. And I always saw the way I could help people was through, you know, always speaking the highest possible symbol languages aligned with the Holy Spirit in those whatever modality, right? Coaching, astrology, or whatever. But now I'm personally more choosing the non-dual path, and I find it problematic to be reinforcing the stories for other people. But that's just, I know I can still help people, but for me personally, it's like you come to a time where you realize, like for yourself, you begin to move away maybe from those things. But while they're useful and while you're connecting with people, because it's all about connecting with your brother, right? Then use them however you can, even though like they're coming to you with a goal. You know, because you're reading this and studying this, that the goal is in the dream, probably the ego, whatever. But by you being present and forgiving the other person constantly, you're reinforcing that the Holy Spirit in both of you, right? And the Holy Instant. Anyway, those were the two things from the first chapter that I was thinking about too.
I totally agree. I think maybe the form doesn't matter. The stuff you're saying doesn't matter. Maybe, you know, being with them and having that forgiveness experience in the Holy Instant is really what matters.
Yeah, and connecting them however you can to their connection with Holy Spirit, their intuition.
Yeah, teaching and learning are one.
Yeah.
I'm going to make you a t-shirt.
What did you just call me?
I said I'm going to make you a t-shirt that says teaching and learning are one.
Oh, awesome. Thank you. And a poster too, right? So who wants to go next?
I'll go next. So first of all, Janine, thank you so much. I just want to say that, like, it's really obvious that you have a lot of experience, and that's going to bring so much to this group, because I could just hear in just that little bit that you shared, it was like, oh, wow, she really gets this shit. And being so new, it's just so nice. Like, that's why I love this group, because I can't talk to the people around me about this stuff, really. Even most of my spiritual friends, I can't really talk to about this stuff. So that was really cool. So I'm just going to share what, for me, the most important part, like, I could read that first notes thing. I'll probably read that, like, for the rest of the time that I study the course, because it's so powerful, and in such a short, it's like reading the course in 20 pages. And I feel like if at some point I get lost, or I feel a little bit like I don't remember what's going on, I can always go back to that. And one of the things that I feel like really summed it up for me is when he says, the course teaches that this is an unreal state. And in a state of unreality and confusion, there is always an underlying anxiety, whether conscious or not. Yet if we have the willingness to listen to the right voice that speaks for the reality of spirit instead of the ego voice that speaks for the reality of the dream, we start to relax and maybe begin to realize that all these things that we thought were so important in the dream weren't such a big deal after all. And I feel like for me, that's really, like, in a couple of sentences, exactly what I got from the disappearance, and why I really fell for it was because I started to relax. Like, I realized that all of the striving and all of the frustration, all of the, trying to be successful, trying to heal myself. I have multiple sclerosis, trying to make it work. Like, I could just relax and realize that, like, it doesn't matter, because this is a dream. And I can just relax. And that piece about the fact that because this is an unreal state, we are naturally always going to have that underlying anxiety, really just made me feel like, oh, okay. It was like this thing about, like, I didn't have to feel like there was something wrong with me because I wasn't able to achieve some, miraculous state of happiness that I thought I was supposed to be in all the time. It was like, no, this is a dream, and this is part of the ego's thing that it's doing, and you're naturally going to feel like some anxiousness and upset, and that I can realize in that place that all of the stuff that I thought was important really isn't, and I can just go for God and go for the Holy Spirit and go for forgiveness. And it, like, made my whole life feel like it was so much easier. I was like, oh, thank God. I don't have to try so much anymore,
Yeah, that's really awesome. I think that's an important thing to pick up from all this is, like, you can relax. It's okay, like, it's all good.
Yeah, there's no way to, I've always said, like, you can't fail. But now, like, I really get, like, I really can't fail, because the script is written. This is the ego game. And as long as I am intent on, learning in this story that I've created and, learning my forgiveness lessons, that's my only job. It's just to keep connecting to the Holy Spirit and learning my forgiveness lessons and remembering that I'm dreaming. And that's a lot easier than trying to fix my life in some way that I know will never happen, because it's always changing.
Yeah, like, 2 quotes from the course: you cannot but be in the right place at the right time. And the teachers of God have trust or faith in the world because they realize it is not being governed by the laws the world obeys, but rather by a power that is in them but not of them. In other words, everything's for a reason. And the other thing I wanted to just add is that, yes, like, we don't need to strive too hard in the world, in the sense where it kind of, like, brings up anxiety, but and it's not, and the course isn't about behavior. However, Ken Wapnick will stress that it's important to be normal, and you know, like naturally to do your best, you still do your best, you know, like when it comes to everything, but at the same time, like it's just when it starts to become a source of anxiety, that's when you kind of know that, like, you know, probably following our ego.
Agreed.
So there is nothing wrong with still trying your best and pursuing goals and whatnot.
Right. It can come from more of a place of like, I think I've always had a real hard time with decisions. I've always felt like there was a right decision and a wrong decision. I didn't know how to figure out which one was which. And if I made the wrong decision, I was going to totally F up my whole life, or, you know, and it just brought me a lot of, there was a great deal of importance on trying to figure out how to like make sure that this life means something. And now I realize that like that's not even the point. That has nothing to do with it. It's all like there's I don't know what book it is, but where he talks about that, you know, or Persa and Artin are talking about, you know, we all live so many lives. We've all lived lives as rich people and poor people, and we've all been born into so many bodies that it doesn't matter if you happen to be living a life where you're not rich or if you are rich. It's all equal. And that was such a relief to me to just feel like, okay, I'm just here to live and to learn my lessons and to, you know, try to tap into that reality of the non-dualism as much as possible. Like that's where I feel like my motivation is now, and rather than being in the world. And that doesn't mean I'm not living in the world. I'm doing what I need to, but I don't feel that pressure anymore.
That's amazing.
I have to say, I had the exact same experience growing up of like just really struggling with choice, and the exact same relief of reading that in one of the books. And later in this book, Artin and Persa talk about how you've basically lived every possible experience. And so there's nothing you haven't done already. And just for people like you and me, just because of our current personalities, like I was like, oh, I'm surprised the amount of anxiety that relieves. Like, I don't need to visit like every beach in every part of the world, or my life is a failure.
Exactly.
All right, who wants to go next? Highlights from chapter 1.
I will go next.
All right.
All right. So I have read the whole book a few months ago.
Hey, come on out.
Well, I read the whole book, but my favorite part, honestly, was the last third of the book. And so this is really good for me to start delving back into the very beginning, because it's, you know, first time around reading the introduction, I was like, okay, I know this. I was just kind of anxious to get through the book. But there's so much. I'm really glad we're doing this. So it says here, I took notes as normally I do. The difference between non-dualism and pure non-dualism, and the capitalizing of words such as oneness, reality, guide, truth, creator, spirit. These are the level of God mind, and these would all be capitalized. So when I was doing the course the first time, I didn't know about the capitalization, and I was so confused through so many things. So this is really good. I like how it explains that real power is if you could be happy, strong, and peaceful, regardless of what happens in the world. That is real strength, freedom, and real spirituality. So being happy, you know, looking at my own life experience, I've gone through 6 months of chemo and the whole journey. And so that helps me reflect and look at what's put in front of me. I could honestly say that I have been happy through the whole 6 months, which is, it just kind of, it's just an awareness. Also, the Gnostics. Okay, so the knowledge with a capital K is not just knowing, but experiencing the direct experience of God. So that's where people might think they know, like some of the course students. I can't remember if it was Canada.
Yes. Yeah, I came across one recently that was referring to knowledge as if it's like some kind of intellectual feat, right?
Yeah,
But
yeah.
like they're almost talking like what the Gnostics used to refer to as gnosis, which is like heaven and God and oneness. Like, because that's only can be known as what is.
Yes.
Only what is.
So the experiencing of God is what you can't know it until you experience it. And I'm like thinking, have I experienced it? I'm not sure. So I'm just know it. Okay, so in order to experience the knowledge of God, you must undo the false you, the ego. Okay, we know that. In this dream, the Holy Spirit sees our illusions without believing them. And then I think somebody covered this part about the first step, second step. About the first step is discipline. Second step is thinking with the Holy Spirit. And the third step would be to replace the thought system of the ego with the thought system of the Holy Spirit.
Yes.
Yeah. So it's going to be pretty awesome when I can get to the point where the world cannot hurt me. This is what was talked about in the book. And JAFO, just another forgiveness opportunity. I think I'll use that acronym. JAFO.
Yeah, Jaffos.
And what I really, and then it was kind of neat, the dialogue between Arten and Persa and Gary, and the ladder, and how the place is where all people, which are all of us, I feel like, with a sincere spiritual search, is at the bottom. We're at the lowest rung of the ladder in a condition of duality. Dualism is 99% of the people in the world. So there's that 1% that have it. If you complete is it Pleiadians? How do you say that?
Yeah, I believe it's Pleiadians.
Pleiadians? That was pretty cool what you said, Christian, about I didn't know that. They were almost distinct. I was thinking, this is like from before I heard you say that they are distant relatives that are kind of like extraterrestrial or something, that and it gives me the feeling that we may go back to that form, or go to that form, if we come back in another lifetime, because the world's changing and it won't be us like we are now exactly.
That is definitely possible, especially if you advance spiritually. Like if you really, like, what these books are telling us is like to really put our foot on the gas pedal, to really like be uncompromising and practice forgiveness as much as possible, because and if you don't, that's okay, but like the Holy Spirit seems to keep saying to Gary, almost like, and he kept saying it in our call last week, like, you're doing great, but what if you could kick it up a notch? What if you could really, so anyways, if we do that, then I would say that it's absolutely possible that we experience our next lifetime as a Pleiadian.
Then we'd be that much closer. The Pleiadians, it would be like, aren't they still separation? Like, would you say there's still separation?
Yeah. Anything with a body, border, or limit is, like their bodies are separation, yet there's probably more of them that are enlightened to the point where they don't really see the separation as much. They really realize that they're dreaming, and like, I think when you're enlightened, the experience of the body or separation is just very light. If not, maybe not even there. Like I think it's just like the Holy Spirit.
Yeah, I was having this dream last night, and it was like all of my cancer journey. It was like my life like coming at me, and I wasn't really, like, I didn't see any of my childhood or anything like that. It was like starting with the cancer journey, and how it was like the Holy Spirit was telling me, okay, let go of the ego, let go of it. And I was like, I want to let go of it. Okay, I want to let go of it. And then I really started like talking in my sleep. And so I was like, okay, I want to let go of it. But then there's confusion in my mind. Like, can I let go of it and still stay? You know? And still stay and have some fun, you know?
That's really
that
quite
actually happened last night. And Randy was like trying to talk to me and not to alarm me, because he, you know, in the book it talks about how Gary kind of used the analogy of the little girl that's dreaming. And so he was like, I was his little girl, and he was like trying to talk me, you know, and I was just like trying to say it out, but it was kind of funny. But anyway, that's all I have. I mean, on the first chapter.
wow, awesome. Sheila.
Well, you guys have said all the good stuff. Well, okay, not all the good stuff. All the stuff I was going to say.
Oh, come on.
Okay, well,
I'll say it again, Sheila. Say it again.
I will go ahead and say what I've got, and I'll add my, I guess, my perspectives or something on it. So I got a lot out of the note from the author. Like Nathan, my first thing I saw here was the self-help movement is about getting what you want. And I remember early in my, I guess in my spiritual journey, where I was aware that I was looking for something. I was obviously looking for something my whole life, but I didn't know what it was. And when I found myself in lots of pain and searching and stuff, you know, Esther and Jerry Hicks came into my awareness, and obviously the law of attraction and Wayne Dyer and Deepak Chopra and, you know, all that stuff. And, you know, I did vision boards and tried to think positively and tried to attract things, and I wasn't actually all that good at it. And I also noticed that the more I tried to attract things and not get them, the more upset I would get. And somewhere in there, A Course in Miracles finally came into my awareness as well, with Gary Renard, thankfully close in time, because I would never have got the Course without Gary, honestly. But somewhere in there, I finally, after whiffling and waffling of, okay, I'm in a good place because I've done this Course in Miracles thing and I'm feeling really good. I'll go back and I'll try and attract this thing. And then, you know, the thing wouldn't come and I'd get really miserable and I'm going to do Course in Miracles again because I really like the happiness and the peace that I had when I did that. And I waffled, I don't know, 3 or 4 or 5 times. And eventually I decided, you know what? I don't need the law of attraction. I don't need to attract anything. I have everything I need. If I don't have it, I don't need it. If it comes, great. If it doesn't, I don't really care. I'm no longer about what can I get, what can I have. Not that I don't want things. And
oh man, teach me how to do that.
It's releasing attachment to the needing and the wanting. And honestly, like lots of it came through the Course, but also a lot of it came from studying the work of Byron Katie. When I start thinking, oh, I need this thing or I want this thing, and I start questioning that, which ties right in with the Course in Miracles. Is that true? Do I really need that? And, you know, if you go inside and you look, you don't need most of what you think you need, and all that stuff you think you need doesn't make you happy anyhow, which is what Gary says there. It just doesn't work. So then when he goes on to say, what if you could be happy, strong, and peaceful regardless of what happens in the world? That is my goal. I don't care about attracting anything. I don't need money. If I have it, great. Yay. It's not that I don't go out and work. I do. But if I didn't have it, I'm going to be practicing forgiveness. I'm not trying to attract any of that stuff. You know, I don't need a man. If one comes, well, yay. And if one doesn't, the same yay. So that none of the outside circumstances are going to affect me. And I'm not quite there yet, but that's where I'm going. And I can't even tell you how much my life has changed from when I first started. I was miserable. I was on antidepressants. I tried to kill myself. I was just a complete mess. And it's not that way now. It's not Jesus, I don't think. But it's not like what it used to be. So that's a good thing. So then he goes on to say, how does one get this experience of where you always experience this peace? And that is by undoing the ego. And a big one for me is actually, Viola, I wanted to say this to you last week, and you were talking to Gary about the fear. And I wanted to say to you, if you could try to remember that who you are is not a body. You are not a body, okay? We are a mind, a big mind that is not bodies. This is just not real. It might help you to deal with the fear.
I do. I do exactly that.
Yeah, because
I'm not a body, and that's why I've been able to actually, I think, get this far without a lot of pain.
Right on. Good.
Yeah, I know. That's yeah, definitely. I do that. But one thing that you just mentioned that jogged my memory was that in the introduction or the first chapter, it talked about how when you see someone, they're not a part of it. They're like all of it. So you look at them as being all of it. Mm-hmm. And to me, that was like a shift, because when I see someone, I'd be like, oh, we're all one, we're all, perfect oneness. But then they're still like separate. But really, they're all of it. They're not even.
Yeah, makes you realize you're holding something back.
Well, I want to, that you just made me decide I want to share something that I haven't shared with you, and it has nothing to do with the book at all. I've told this to Christian, and it seemed to mean something to him. I was having a problem trying to imagine this oneness, and I didn't really feel like I was experiencing oneness. And at some point, this image came to me that all of a sudden, oh, that's how it is. Picture a ball, okay? And the ball is full of light, okay? Now picture 7 billion holes in that ball, and the light shoots out in 7 billion little rays. And somewhere at the end of that ray, there's an awareness. And the little awareness looks at it and says, look at all those other 6 billion, whatever, little rays of light that are all separate from me. But if you look back, we're all coming from the same place. We are all the same thing. We are one. It just looks like we're separate. We're not.
Right.
And for me, boy, that just, the whole oneness. I see my brother out there, and that's me. That's us. It's one.
That's a good analogy.
Yeah.
What a delightful way to sort of like express how like we're all one and stuff, right? Like
we're one and we're joined.
Yeah, and your forgiveness thought process, like, see, this book is so much about that, right? Going the extra mile, pure non-dualism, not seeing your brother as just being like your brother, but, but being like,
it's myself.
Yeah, there's only one of us, and it's like yeah, just so unlimited and stuff. So like, forgiveness thought process might be really long, but then it gets shorter. Like I've been almost thinking the past couple of days of like maybe my forgiveness thought process just being like God is. Simply God is, and that's all of us.
Yes. Okay, so that brings me to my next thing here, which was the practice of forgiveness. So he says the first step in forgiveness is catching yourself thinking with the ego and stop it. And for a long, long time, I've practiced the forgiveness at the end of chapter 5. I must have decided wrong because I'm not at peace. I made the decision myself, blah, 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 all that. In one of his books, he's also got his thought process, which is the same thing, but Gary's words. You can imagine it's just a little bit more informal. But I've used various things. I've used when something happens, is I'm not a body. I kicked my toe and my toe broke and swelled all up and got, well, I'm not a body. I'm free. I'm not a body. Okay, right. Okay, I'm good with that then. So that's a good thing. Another one that I've done, and this was really fun, when they say be vigilant only for God. And how quick are we to be vigilant for ego? Hey, you asshole, you did this, or you did that, or you should do that. Like everything we see out there in the world is like a big deal, and we're pointing the finger, and we're very, very vigilant for ego. And so I decided to try one day, I don't know how long it was, for a while, a period of time, when I was driving, because I was always, okay, I must have decided wrong because I'm not, someone cuts you off, whatever. Must have decided wrong because, and before I could ever finish it, someone else would do something. It was nonstop. One day I decided to practice this. Someone did something I didn't like, and I just thought, wait, God, be vigilant for God. And as I was taking my mind off of the person that I thought had done something bad, what I was doing is going to God. All right. Well, God, I'm peaceful when I'm God. Okay. And it was amazing how quickly the shift could be. Just remember God. All right. Be vigilant for God. So I don't know if that makes any sense to anybody. But anyway, so the first step is catching yourself thinking about it. And the second step is understanding that what you're seeing is not true. And the third step isn't your job. That second step, by the way, understanding what you're seeing isn't true, that's the holy instant right there. Is as soon as you realize that. The second step is, or the third step is the Holy Spirit's job, where he'll help you see things differently. And it's a wonderful, wonderful thing. I will conclude with something that, who was it? I think, Nathan, it was you again that started to say, trials are but lessons that you failed to learn, presented once again. So where you made a faulty choice before, you now can make a better one, and thus escape all pain that what you chose before has brought to you. I just love that. That takes all the pressure off. Whenever anything happens that upsets you, if you forget to practice forgiveness or you do practice forgiveness, relax. It's just enough. It's Jaffo. It's Jaffo. It's another opportunity.
All right.
That's all I got.
Great. Okay, so we have like 10 minutes left.
Oh, Randy hasn't gone yet.
Well, oh, no, I'll just add to it that one of my highlights, other than what we've already covered, but William Shakespeare was enlightened after.
Yeah,
that was a
cool.
different thing to read, especially, studying William Shakespeare 50 years, 40 years ago, 45 years ago. But to know now that he's enlightened kind of explains a lot.
Yeah, that's really, really, really awesome.
Why would that be surprising? Like, I didn't study.
Just his writing, just his style of writing.
And I always wondered why it was so important for every school to teach us about Shakespeare, and like, so there's obviously something that resonates inside of us, from reading that.
Good point. Very good point.
So we don't have much time. I was thinking, should we do like 1 minute forgiveness in the field, or maybe we could just read this part right here that I just landed on, which is Shakespeare's.
Yeah.
I had to read that multiple times. Yeah, go ahead. Go for it.
Okay. All right. I got enough light here. The world we once believe in is a dream and nothing more. William Shakespeare, who according to my teachers was enlightened, was right on the money when he wrote these words in The Tempest. You do look, my son, in a moved sort, as if you were dismayed. Be cheerful, sir. Our revels now are ended. These our actors, as I foretold you, were all spirits and are melted into air, into thin air. And, like the baseless fabric of this vision, the cloud-capped towers, the gorgeous palaces, the solemn temples, the great globe itself, yea, all which it inherit, shall dissolve. And like this insubstantial pageant faded, leave not a rack behind. We are such stuff as dreams are made on, and our little life is rounded with a sleep. So that kind of, really get, like how we're, like I'm looking at this horizon out over the city, but it's just nothing. It's like the baseless fabric, the cloud capped, like you can go through it almost. Like walls and mountains and rocks and roads all seem so solid, but it's really nothing, just thought.
That's really, it's a relief to know that this is like not real and it's all a dream. Even as good as it's been, it's not even like a fraction of what across the veil is.
I remember in one of Gary's things, he says, once you have the experience of, I can't remember if he says oneness, or once you have some of these experiences that this practice brings, he says, you want more of that, because what's left here is just sort of like chicken crap.
Yeah, like so, like we believe that the universe is so ginormously, infinitely huge, but it's really actually infinitesimally, nothingly small. It's like the opposite. So that's really wonderful. Anyways, the lifetimes when Jesus and Buddha knew each other, a history of mighty companions, chapter 2 next week, folks.
Oh, Rosalia is on.
Oh, there she is.
Rosalia.
Hi, Rosalia.
Oh, wait.
There she is.
I know. Start my video. Can you listen? Can you hear
Yeah,
me?
we can hear you.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, good. No, I've been having problems with the computer now. And now I'm using the phone.
Oh. You're just cutting out a little bit. Did you have something you want to tell us about chapter 1 that you enjoyed? Seems like Rosalia's having some technical difficulties right now. Well, what do you say, Randy and Viola?
I think her signal's pretty well weak.
Maybe Rosalia can do it next week.
Yep.
Tell us what she thought of chapter 1 and the introduction, along with chapter 2.
Or she could also post on the bottom of the video when the video goes up.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I just want to respect everyone's time and keep it at an hour.
Yep.
Yeah. Well, that was a lot of fun. Well, let's close the call how we end every call. Everyone unmute your mic and say good night and God bless.
Good night.
Good night and God bless.
Night and God bless, everyone.
See you next week.
See you next week.
Bye.
Bye.